Thanks, Ron. So today I think I want to talk primarily about multi-cloud and what our point of view on multi-cloud is, right? Again, I know there are a lot of discussions today earlier about Gen AI and all of that. So I'll also try to kind of talk about how you can, why multi-cloud is important in a Gen AI world and how it helps your AI strategy as well, right? So basically when you look at historically enterprise or any company, right, so there are few challenges that they are, if the company has existed for a few years, that they run into, right? Like, for example, like they are already using certain technology and now getting out of the technology is always a challenge, right? So for example, let's say you had some process to do some kind of rules engine today, and AI comes in and says, hey, might we have this new SaaS provider who can do all of yours plus something else, and you want to have make sure you're using those best tools wherever possible, to make sure you're leveraging that benefit, and again using that benefit either internally or giving back to your customers. And again, customer and lock-ins, like vendor lock-ins, has always been a challenge all the way going back to 90s when software started being more enterprise oriented, right? Again, you want to avoid lock-ins as much as possible. Again, the goal there is to give you the flexibility to choose the right tool for the right purpose and at the right location, right? Again, it is very important if you are, for example, working with a customer, or if you are a customer working on edge locations, right? You might be doing some kind of, for example, camera processing where you are in remote areas where you may or may not have that internet access. So scenarios like that, you want to make sure you're not locking yourself into certain vendors, giving you that flexibility with especially with AI. And in the example I was talking about, we have new cameras which can do image recognition, which can do person recognition, all of those, right? So making sure you architect your solutions and you have that flexibility built in into your strategy, so that if something comes up which is really new, which can move the needle for you, you should be able to use that, right? Again, and finally, I think kind of business continuity, I think that is extremely important, especially with we being so much into the cloud, and so many things can happen within the cloud. A lot of anything can happen. Again, we have outages, especially with the cloud. That is one of the biggest challenges. You can have outage at any time, right? So making sure you have that redundancy built in into your architecture, and also you have that availability, like your business operations can run even if one part of your infra is down, right? Having that business continuity built in into your strategy, I think again this is extremely important. And once you enable all these three, you will get that flexibility to kind of operate without much of a nightmare, right? So again, how do you achieve that in a cloud world is where I think multi-cloud can really help you, right? Again, that is where I think the logically, if you think about it, one cloud may have a problem, but overall, when you start to think about how having different clouds can help you, I'll talk a bit more later, but think about it like, as I said, if you might have multiple vendors providing you multiple data sets to have intelligence built in into your Gen AI solution, right? Again, Gen AI is as good as the data you provide it, and not Gen AI in AI in general. So if I have certain providers that are already ready to provide the data, but they have their own cloud, or they are in one of our competitive clouds, how can I leverage the data that they provide, but with minimal effort, right? Again, if you are thinking about traditionally, what you would have done is you would have basically got the data from a different provider into GCP or something like that, and then you start to build processes on that to leverage the value. But the goal with multi-cloud is, can I leave the data assets? Can I leave anything and everything, whether it's on-prem, whether it's in one of my competitive cloud, because I spent so much time developing the solution on-prem, and it has gone to a point where I really want to leverage the value of it, right? And sometimes you cannot even move everything to cloud because of multiple reasons. I have a customer who actually has factory as a service application where we have these cameras online, and even making an API call to the customer into the cloud and getting a response back is a delay that they cannot be living with, right? So there are multiple solutions we work around that. Again, the idea there is we have these solutions which are sitting across different places, on-prem, different clouds, even for uh, SaaS products, right? Again, like Brink and brilliant. These people have their own products, so right on that are built on top of GCP, but they have their own products. So I have this data sitting every place. I have these different Docker containers, different Kubernetes sitting at every place. So what if I can have that one place where I can use the power of wherever my applications are, but also I can have a simple grain of security policies, right? So that is what we think hybrid cloud should provide you in overall. So again, I think I spoke about this. Some of the key challenges are like the moment you start to say, okay, I want a policy for across multiple clouds or across multiple hybrid clouds, the challenge will be normally typically you will start to think about what is my lowest common denominator, and that will drive your strategy. The problem with that approach, I strongly feel, is the moment you're going with that strategy, you're not really utilizing the benefits of something like Google Cloud with all our AI/ML capabilities and all of these newer capabilities that we provide, newer models that are coming out every single day. You're not using that because you're going with the lowest common denominator, right? And again, you have to look at using the same infrastructure across, right? So for example, you're not really having that capability to use something that is newer model machines that we have, newer models overall from an LLM perspective in GCP. Again, a lot of our customers, big name customers that we have, again, few of them are called out here, but all of them have a multi-cloud strategy and a hybrid strategy. And how we are now going to talk into how we achieve it, or what is our tool set to achieve it, right? So before we even go there, why we do that, there are a few things that we always keep in mind whenever we are talking about this multi-cloud strategy, and when we came up with our product, which we call Anthos, which I'll talk about in a second. But few things that you want to think about, again, right, nailing down on these is like you have to have that flexibility, and you have to have that openness to kind of go anywhere, which whether it's on-prem, whether it's in other clouds and stuff like that. And also you want to, especially when you're trying to manage things across multiple environments, you want to have a tool or some kind of insights that are not only specific to tool, but that can give you this insight into what is going on across all my platforms, all my environments, right? I think that is extremely important. If not, you're going to spend a lot of time in individual platforms trying to optimize it and stuff like that. But if you have a view that kind of, think about it more like your dashboard, right? When you're driving a car, the dashboard kind of shows you everything that is going on within your car. Something like that is what we are talking about. Again, security is extremely important, especially now that you have multiple environments. How do you manage it and have making sure all these data interactions are secure and all of that, right? So that is something you need to strongly think about it. And again, we every company these days has an ESG goal, and you also want to think about a cloud that is providing you with that ESG sustainability support in all of these. Excuse me. So basically, what we did with this is we went back and we said, like, we have, what if we have a platform or where you can kind of come in, deploy, manage kind of stuff, but you have that single pane of view into everything that is going on across multiple clouds. And we leaded this with Kubernetes, which is our where you can have Kubernetes on-prem, Kubernetes in different clouds and stuff. That is where we started Anthos, but now it has been evolved more into like even data. Like you can, if your data is in AWS or a different place, you can still run queries just using our platforms. But our viewpoint is, when we came up with Anthos, we wanted it to be open. As we said, we wanted to decouple the dependency between infrastructure and what you're doing, right? So again, as I said, we lead it with Kubernetes heavily. And then we also wanted the support for hybrid. When we mean hybrid, it is not just in the cloud, but we do understand a lot of our customers have invested heavily in on-prem solutions, whether it is hardware or whether it is fine-tuning the applications to get the optimized results they want. So again, support to both on-prem and other clouds. That is something we wanted to build into Athos. And finally, we also wanted to think about how can we automate all of this, right? Especially with the moment you're talking multi-cloud or even, as I said, hybrid. How do we make it automated? How can we make it seamless? And how can we make this entire process of software integration using CI/CD and all of that much faster and much automated? That way, you're reducing the time to market, right? So that is our goal: is how can we make this entire process easy for our developers and our application community? At the same time, how can we make it more reliable, and how can we, as I said, leave the data assets or the assets itself where they sit, rather than having to thinking about moving them all into one place. So if there are certain places where you have a lot of value in that, leave it there and try to see how we can leverage value out of it. Again, I'm not going to, in the 20 minutes, we cannot really do a deep dive of Anthos, but to give you a very high level view, I wanted to talk like a few things, right? So there are primarily the things that are going to be the same across platforms, whether you're in other clouds, GCP, or even on-prem, as I said, is policy enforcement. I'm going to go from bottom up. Policy enforcement basically tells you that if you can have the same policy and you can extend it across multiple places. And I think that is extremely important if you think about how much time your security team or networking team is going to be working on making, if today working on individual cloud alignments and stuff like that. Again, getting all of that into a single policy enforcement, and once you do that, you get the insights into what's going on. Same with service management and container management. The idea there is you will have simple policies, simple policies and simple architectures that you can take, especially if you have Kubernetes and Kubernetes or any of our containerization platforms, and you will be able to replicate that seamlessly across all of these. And that is where I think there is a lot of value, because again, now you're primarily looking at making sure you're using, wherever you're developing the application, wherever you're developing your resources, you're making sure you're getting the maximum potential out of it, and your rework is extremely less. What we have seen with a lot of this is a lot of times the cost has reduced, as I talked about. Normally, if you think about it, the cost to do operate all of this is pretty high if you're doing it individually. So we have seen a huge reduction, about 55%. Security risk, again, because of that single policy view into across everything, we have seen a huge reduction in the number of security risks that are exposed, increasing time to market, again, because everything, as I showed you before, is uh, time to market will increase because now you're doing it much faster and much quicker, and it is automation and speed are something that are built into Anthos all the way from get-go. And we also have heavily invested in most of our open source tools, right? Again, if you think about TensorFlow, if you talk about Kubernetes, these are all open sourced Google products. So using all of that, we give you, if you're using either Kubernetes or TensorFlow across hybrid cloud environments, we give you that single point of view into what is going on. Again, this slide talks about what are the benefits, as I said. Overall, primary focus being leave the applications where they are, utilizing the best of where they live, and making sure you're getting the best of the world, and making everything, the return on investment and the speed to market, all of them improved by 4 to 5x times of what you normally do. I think, again, this is a kind of talking a different version of the same slide again, but I think one of the other things that is really good is, because you have this all view, we use our Vertex AI, Gen AI capabilities to give you some insights on what is going on. If we kind of predict there is a problem somewhere else, you can by default get those AI findings and AI insights straight out of our Anthos platforms. I think that is pretty much what I have. So yeah, Ron, I think I'm on time here, right on time. So.